Hi, my name is Mark McKnight and welcome to this lesson in jazz guitar from learntoplayit.com. Before we begin, let's get in tune. Here are my notes. In this lesson, we're going to be looking at what I think is one of the most straightforward and easy ways to understand constructing any type of chord on the guitar, especially the types of chords we commonly use in jazz. This is a method of voicing called root and guide tone voicing. Most guitarists begin learning chords as shapes, usually consisting of 4, 5 or 6 notes. Although this can be useful in the beginning, as we advance and start to want to play maybe some slightly more involved styles of music, like jazz for example, sometimes we can run into difficulties as we didn't really learn anything about why the shapes we learned contain the notes they do. So to try and avoid this, the method of chord construction I'm going to show you in this lesson is designed to give you an insight into the process through which the shapes are derived. At this point, it might be helpful for us to define what we mean by a chord. When I refer to a chord, I'm talking about 3 or more different notes played simultaneously, and we call that playing in harmony when we have multiple notes sounding at the same time. So let's talk a little bit about some of the basic theory behind building chords. In this lesson, we're going to use the C major scale to derive our chords. One octave of this scale contains the notes C, D, E, F, G, A, B and C, which can be labelled 1 through to 8. So there are 7 different notes because by the time you get through to the 8th you're repeating the octave of C. So let's hear what that sounds like on the guitar. You got C, D, E, F, G, A, B and C. And then in the shape I played, we repeated that pattern over the next octave as well. So now what we want to do from that is work out which notes from the scale, from this major scale, we're going to use to make a C major chord. And the answer is very simple. In order to make the chord, all we need to do is take alternate notes from the scale beginning on the root note of the chord, which is obviously C. So this gives us the notes 1, 3, 5 and 7, which are C, E, G and B respectively. We can call these notes the chord tones of C major 7. That's just a C major triad with the natural 7 on top of the chord. When we play these melodically as opposed to harmonically, that means in a row and separated as opposed to at the same time, we get something called an arpeggio, and in this case it would be the arpeggio of C major 7. So that's going to sound like this. So you got C, then you skip over D and go straight to E. You skip over F and go to G, so then you skip over A and move straight to B. Okay, so in any 1, 3, 5, 7 chord like that, the 3 most important notes that we have to pay attention to are the 1, which is the root of the chord, and then we have the 3rd and the 7th, which give us the colour of the chord. The 3rd and the 7th are often referred to as guide tones, as they guide our ears to the character of the chord. So therefore the 5th isn't really so important to the chord. It doesn't really add any colour or any character. So in these voicings that we're going to look at, root and guide tone voicings, we're actually going to leave the 5th out. This is the advantage of helping to keep the voicings as simple and uncluttered as possible while still giving us the full sound of the chord. So now if we play the arpeggio with no 5th, we can actually derive a very simple shape that's going to work as a chord, as a root and guide tone voicing. So that's going to sound like this. We've got 1, 3, then we leave out the 5th and go straight to the 7th, so we end up with this sound. Okay, so as obviously all the notes there that we require were on separate strings, we could play them and achieve the chord. Because the arpeggio that we got the chord from was a C major 7 arpeggio, it should make sense that this chord is going to be a C major 7 chord. And obviously it's using the root and guide tone voicing, which consists of the root, which is the C, and the 3rd and the 7th, which are the guide tones. It's also useful at this stage to point out that we can achieve another voicing from this by making one very simple alteration, which is moving the 3rd up by 1 octave. So the 3rd is the E, so we're going to move it up by 1 octave to an E up there on the 9th fret of the G string, and that's going to give us a voicing like this. We're going to have the root and the 7th still, but this time the 3rd here is going to move up to here, and we're going to get. So therefore you can hear that both these voicings obviously contain the same notes but in different orders, and because of this each one has a slightly different character, even though they do have the same overall colour.